Shorthanded play just means, I would say usually probably 6 or less players. And once you get to that point in the tournament, or if it's a shorthand tournament, I mean the dynamic of the table changes because hand values go up, and yeah, I mean you don't have to worry about 8 people behind you. It's only 5 or 3 people and the small and the big blind. So yeah, it just means I'd say 6 or less people at the table. Well, I think in any game, like, it depends how people play. But obviously when you get down to less people, you have to play more aggressive, you have to play more hands, and you have to still realize that position is one of the most important things. So yeah, I mean you're going to be on the big blind more, you're going to be anteing more, and you can't just sit back and wait for ace king, ace queen, even a pair. You have to mix it up a lot more. Depending on my chip stack, if there's an aggressor at the table, like another person trying to push people around, I mean, it would depend. If I thought that person was a weak player, I would try and play more pots with him and let him make mistakes after the flop against me. And when I had, a marginal hand, try and keep the pot small. But yeah, against that kind of player, I might just like let him run the table and kind of sit back. And that's kind of what happened when I was playing at Eric Lindgren's final table. He kind of, was trying to run the table a little bit, and I kind of let him do the work, and then I got heads up, and then I could focus. So playing premium hands in a short-handed game, I think I'd say it's pretty standard. If you've been raising and being aggressive, you just do the same thing you've been doing. And if you feel like people aren't going to give you credit for big hands, then just play them strong. But if people are pretty tight and maybe will have been folding your raises a lot, you might want to play it kind of slow, because it's kind of hard to put somebody on a big hand when it's when there's 4 or 5 people left. So I'd probably just raise like I always would with it. Yeah, in a short-handed game, you have to steal the blinds more often because you're on the big blind one every 6 hands or one every 5 hands, whatever it is. So you have to make up for all the money that you're losing just sitting there watching the hands go by. So, I mean, you're going to have to raise at least twice as much, I think, than when you're at a 10-handed table if you had a 5-handed table. It's just how the dynamic of short-handed is. Position's important in short-handed play, but in general, I mean, position's just important in poker because, obviously you can see the person act before you. You can bluff more. You can get a read on the person because they have to act before you. So, but in short-handed, you're on the button more often, and the blinds is almost like the small and the big blind is almost half of the people at the table. So you can take advantage of your position and put a lot of pressure on the big blind, the small blind. It still depends. Like if you're in the small blind and in a short-handed game, I mean, it's really actually that situation doesn't matter if it's short-handed or full table because you're still in the small blind and there's still one person left. But I'm not a huge fan of raising in the small blind, especially if you've been playing a lot, because if you get called, you're out of position, and if you don't have a strong hand, that's where you can lose a big pot because he could have any hand. So I like obviously raising with good hands in the small blind, but if you have marginal hands, I'd just try and see a flop with it and not make the pot too big. Yeah, I mean, if your opponents are just letting you take pots and being very passive, in any situation you should be raising as much as possible. That's not excessive. But in a short-handed game, you can do that way more, and especially when you're in position, you can be raising with hands like King 7 suited, and play flops with them. You don't have to wait for big hands. So if your table's playing passive, it'd be stupid not to take advantage of that. Yeah, I'd say in a short-handed game, pre-flop play, it's definitely a lot different. People are raising a lot more hands, and people are going to be calling with a lot more hands because they know that you're going to be raising a lot more hands. So the dynamic's definitely different, and there's obviously more poker to be played. If somebody sees you raising a lot, they can be re-raising you with weak hands like ace deuce, and any hands if they see how you've been playing. So it's just easier to maneuver in a short-handed table and actually play more poker. In short-handed play, you just have to not play scared and realize that hand values go up, and you have to mix it up sometimes. And it's really a lot more about reads and reading people when you're that short, because you